welcome to Stuntin. I'm Diana, Communications Manager for Fimi Market Inc. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Julie Jimenez, another one of our Genesis artists. And we're having such a good time talking to our artists. So welcome to the show, Julie. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, and it's very exciting to be with you today.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump right in. One thing I know about your art is that you love color.
I do. I love color, and red is my favorite color.
Yes,
the brighter the better.
I've seen that in your work. So let's talk to us about your artist journey. Like, when did you start? When did you know you were an artist? Take us along on that journey.
I guess I really found out I was an artist just a few months ago when I actually started getting into NFTs, because I never had thought of myself as an artist before, but I've been drawing since I was a very young child. My grandmother, we used to do all kinds of different crafts, and she was a painter. She painted probably upwards of 20 different, probably oil paintings back in the early 1900s. Each of her family, down to the grandchildren, have one of her paintings now. And I have one tucked away. I'm in a very small place right now, so I don't have room for all of the art that I have. But I started drawing with her, and my dad was very artistic. My older brother's very artistic. So I've kind of always drawn and had a sketch pad around, but I guess I never really considered myself, quote unquote, an artist. Those are people that you buy the art that goes on your walls. But I've been drawing for years and years and have many sketch tablets around with just fiddly drawings that I've done, through my entire life, basically.
So what type of things would you draw as a child?
Stick people. I did a lot of drawings of animals, and especially horses. I love to draw horses. Clear up into probably my early high school days, I would draw horses and had pictures of horses and animals, dogs, different various animals. But it kind of moved off from animals when I got a little bit older, into my later teens, into more maybe I did a self-portrait once. I did a portrait of one of my boyfriends when I was very young. And then I started kind of going more into people than animals. And then in my early 20s, when I started working, and it took a whole different turn. I quit drawing as much. There's a few years period of time where I didn't do any kind of sketching or anything, and that was and then we kind of came into the computer age, and I found that I really liked to do stuff with anything I could do that had to do with a computer, and very quickly started working on my own versions of what now is called graphic design, I guess. So I did a lot of the art for websites that I designed and different things like that through the years.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about that, I guess, that transition into, from your sketch pads and your notebooks and your sketchbooks over into, I don't want to say early days of graphic design, but that discovery for you. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it was mainly when I got really interested into computers is kind of when I quit drawing as much in the sketch pads. I probably, most of our audience, your audience now is probably Web3 people. I'm actually a Web 0.5. I go even beyond Web, even before Web 1. The first computer I had ran MS-DOS. Windows hadn't even been thought of yet, other than by Bill in the garage somewhere. But we didn't have Windows. I used something called Netscape, and it was
I remember
Netscape. Yeah,
I remember Netscape.
It was just a web browser, and I mean, Google hadn't even been thought of at that point yet. But there was different once Windows came out, there was always some kind of a little drawing program in it where you could fiddle around with it and make boxes and other boxes and
Yeah.
do different stuff. And then when some of the first Windows-based drawing programs started coming out, I mean, I had, gosh, I can't even remember some of the first ones I used, but later like Corel, which is still out there.
Corel Draw.
And then, yeah, Corel Draw. I did a lot of stuff with Fireworks back before Adobe bought it, when it was still part of the original suite of programs. But just as I moved more into that, I just did kind of computer drawings, like my sketch tablet, but they never really went anyplace other than I enjoyed them and maybe my daughter or family or whatever. But I never really did it. I didn't publish any of them. I didn't print any of them to do anything with. They just were kind of my own. I draw for my own enjoyment. It's kind of a place you can go to escape a little bit of reality, and a lot of people, especially this last couple of years, just need to escape reality a little bit. And that's kind of how I transitioned and found the NFT world in some of the online apps and whatnot, that you can go do stuff and have fun stuff that AI generates, and then start looking at how I can incorporate some of those into Photoshop with some of the other stuff that I like to do. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely answered my last question. Like, how have you found the NFT space, especially in terms of, I mean, you didn't consider yourself an artist, but you have been a lifelong artist in my view. And here comes, the pandemic, and had to dive a little bit deeper into finding solace. And through that, you practice your art a little bit more. So, you're just thinking about your journey from, your sketch pads to, those early days with, Netscape and Fireworks. I mean, you are speaking my language, because we are so fortunate enough to be alive at this time where technology is rapid changing. I mean, a year in technology is a very, very long time, So what programs have you been playing around with for your NFTs? Like, and how have you been finding that?
I initially started some of them through an online app called Night Cafe. And so I've taken some of those, and then I bring those into, mainly I use Photoshop and different brushes that can be downloaded and whatnot. But a lot of the early stuff that I've done, I mean, I've only been doing stuff in the NFT arena for a couple of months, and a lot of the early stuff I did was mostly AI generated. And then with different modifiers and different things, and then I might bring something and do something very minor to it in Photoshop. And I have to admit, I still have Fireworks on my laptop. So sometimes I just have to revert to what is really, really familiar to me. So,
and whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works.
There's hundreds of thousands of apps. There's just so much happening, and it just, sometimes you just have to stick with what you know, because it works.
Right. No, exactly.
How would you describe your style, Julie? Now, how would you describe your style?
Oh gosh, I'm kind of all over the place, because there's so many cool things that you can generate now. Starting from just importing your photos into something like Night Cafe or any of the other apps like that. And I've used several of the other ones, Starry and some of the other ones that are out there. But there's so much that just anybody can import a photo that they've taken and do something cool with it. And then go to any number of the different places that you can sell NFTs now and post them. And it's relatively inexpensive. It's great fun. It's a great pastime when you're just kind of watching a movie, but you're really not into it. So you got your phone, you know, doing doing stuff on your phone. I forgot the question now.
It's fine. It's fine. What things have you been, having fun with? As you say, you're sitting down on your phone and you probably uploaded a photo or something. Like, what things have you been really like having fun with and saying, I think that could be an NFT?
I think the biggest thing that I've been having fun with is just in Night Cafe, when you put in the string of words that you're gonna use to create something, and then playing with the different modifiers and just seeing what different modifiers do with things, and how, do you start with a background picture? Do you start with nothing but AI? For example, my Dakota Plains series is basically based on a tree. It starts with a tree, which in a few of them you can actually see the tree, but in a lot of them the tree turns into like the Indian chief with all the feathers coming out of his head and stuff. It's incredible what the computer generation part of the art can play into how then we craft it into the final piece that you want to list as an NFT.
It's wonderful. I have been privy enough to see your a couple pieces of your Dakota Plains collection, and I am really, really amazed, especially of your use with color. It's vibrant, it's energetic, it's lively, and I feel so privileged because here, at Fimi, we have such wonderful artists like you. Like, we're just like, when our platform is launched, everybody's like, we're getting ready with our wallets because like we want that NFT, we want that NFT because you're all so great, and I really love your series. So that being said, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about like, why have you chosen Fimi for your NFT drop?
I think probably one of the biggest reasons is your plan of being able to allow the user or the purchaser to have the opportunity to select which platform they want to purchase on. Do they want to purchase on ETH? Do they want to purchase on Stellar? Do they want to use Poly? XLM? That's a game changer, because most of the platforms now that are out there are tied to a specific coin, and you may have one or two options of, I can do this on the Stellar network or that on the Stellar network, but I'm still on the Stellar network, or I'm on ETH and I can use ETH or I can use Matic, but you're still on the ETH network. So I think that's probably the biggest reason. And then just the excitement of being able to start as a Genesis artist on a new platform and get a little more exposure to what myself, as well as every other Genesis artist and all the other artists that are going to come on as we go, launch later this month, that how many people are going to be, you're all of a sudden just going to have this whole broad range of artists that you can choose from and go look at their art and be the first one to buy it, on a new platform.
Yeah, it's truly exciting because, we like to say that we are nothing without our artists. This marketplace really doesn't mean anything without artists and your creations to populate it. So thank you so much for your vote of confidence. And yeah, we're not, the big bad platform coming in, but what we do care about is the artist and the experience that you will have in the marketplace. So creating of a more boutique kind of experience where, your work won't be drowned out by, hundreds of thousands of other artwork in a very noisy platform or a very noisy marketplace.
No, and that's great because I mean, in the physical world, we've got the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and then we've got the little dinky museum that's down the street from my house that has old farm equipment type stuff in it. There's room everywhere in between on Web3, just like there is in the physical world, as far as art and how it's displayed and where you can go to find the kind of niches that you're looking for. And I think Fimi's going to fit right in to that new space.
So what do we have to look forward from you in the future? Like, what are you playing with? Going on there, Julie?
Just continuing to play with my Dakota planes. That's probably the one that I'm most proud of. Because it goes back to my roots in South Dakota, growing up, having neighbors that were from the American Indian tribes and playmates and that sort of thing. And then as I got older, my interests in southeastern jewelry and things you decorate your house with, up to when I purchased my first Joanne Bird piece of art, which she's a Native American artist from the Santee Sioux tribe, and she was from South Dakota, which is where I grew up. So it was really exciting to be able to, and that's where a lot of that comes from. But I'm also looking forward to doing more with my Ink City tour. That's kind of I've always loved looking at different places around the world, but I've never had the funds to go travel and do the things that I'd like to do. So it's kind of cool to go through and look at pictures of places, and that's kind of where that one came from. Just my idea of, if I were able to visit this place, what would London look like? What would Barcelona look like? And kind of a around the world in 80 seconds on Fimi in Ink City tours.
I like the couple ones that you've sent us. I quite like the Ink City as well. I always have this affinity for cityscapes. It's just always been kind of my so seeing that, it's just like yeah. I want to see more of that for sure. And you're definitely right. It's like you're just flipping the pages and you're traveling through your memory. Or even if like this is something that I would imagine the city to look like, you know. So it kind of felt a bit like, you know, Batman's Gotham had that that I quite liked. Oh my gosh. Well, Julie Jimenez, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Stuntin. We are looking forward to seeing your NFT drop in our marketplace when we go live. And we really appreciate the time that you have taken to talk to us today about, you know, your artist journey and your style and your motivation. So we give thanks for that.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to it as much as you are, seeing all the different. I've seen a few little sneak peeks of different people's things that they're putting up, but I'm excited to be able to go flip through the pages myself and see other artists' stuff that's out on Fimi when we launch.
Awesome. It's going to be one big party.
It is.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
Join us next time for next episode of Stuntin, where we talk to our Fimi Genesis artists, and see you next time. Bye-bye.